SkirmishCon, Jacksonville, Florida, 2026. It is February, and I am currently about an hour and 20 minutes or so into the drive to Jacksonville. Got up at 5, not much earlier than normal, but a little bit earlier to just get my stuff together and get on the road here. Really excited to get some Mordheim action. It's been a minute. Played only a handful of games over the past few months of Mordheim. Lately, we've been doing a lot of Necromunda, so that's been sort of taking my attention. We're doing a little bit of a simplified campaign, and I'm actually running it, so I'm pretty busy with that. And I'm encouraging more Munda. But as I've stated way back when, Necromunda is a means to an end to get more Mordheim players, right? So once this campaign wraps up, we're going to do some more Mordheim in Tampa, and I'm going to be real excited about that. But today, driving to SkirmishCon, it's a 2-day event. It's a 3-day event, but for me, Mordheim is all that matters, and Mordheim is only Saturday and Sunday. There was an RPG Mordheim thing, kind of officially unofficial, I think, that was supposed to happen Friday, but I saw on the Discord, I think that they're not able to set up tables, so I don't know if that happened or not. Either way, I wasn't able to get away for the Friday. I didn't really want to do that. Be away from the fam that long. Granted, if this were like a 3-game or 4-game day, I would have. But just for a one-off thing, it's kind of a long drive, and to be away from the fam, the kiddo, not all that intriguing. So this SkirmishCon is different than the last one. The last one was a ton of fun. I absolutely loved it. I loved the combination of competitiveness with the campaign aspects of Mordheim. I thought it was awesome. The whole point, to refresh your recollection, of the last SkirmishCon Mordheim event was Weirdstone. It's all that matters. Most Weirdstone wins, right? So, people were not spending. They weren't selling any of their Weirdstone. Their starting warband was pretty much it. If somebody took a really big hit early on, that was pretty much it as far as their chances of winning. And people were geared up for, cheap units with lots of Weirdstone hunter skills and stuff like that. It was really pretty cool. And as I've talked about before, the post-game, the campaign elements, the experience, the development, the narrative of a Mordheim warband progression is to me like 70% of the game. I love that aspect. I love finishing the game and sitting down with our sheets and our pencils and seeing what happens. So did somebody lose an eye? Did somebody gain a wicked skill? To get that Lad's Got Talent roll, that's always a big celebration. That to me is one of my favorite parts. I love the development. I love the narratives that build from that. So it was an awesome event. Last year, I did really well with my undead Vivian Countess. She rocked up to Jacksonville. She did some serious work, as the undead do. And I was in, I want to say 3rd place towards the end, 2nd or 3rd place, or I was tied for 2nd, maybe, I don't know. So, but Glenn, who's normally our DM, our GM for Mordheim events in Orlando, he runs the campaigns. He does an incredible job. The amount of work this guy sinks into this is just astounding. We owe him so much. But he was massively in the lead. He did Chaos Marauders, and he had like maximum dogs. And rules as written in Mordheim is they're wonky, and so the dogs were just high movement, running up, grabbing these weird stone shards, running back. Nobody could touch him. He had all the weird stone. He didn't need any upgrades. He didn't need to spend any money. It was really tactical. It was really smart, and also fun. Like I think you can, and I think there's an important balance to be had there, and I'll talk about that in a bit. So he was so far in the lead by my. I guess it was second to last game when that one, just before that one started. I did the math and realized there's no possibility, even if he didn't get any more weird stone, there's no possibility of catching him. So I sold all my weird stone. I just stacked my warband. And pretty much everybody was doing that at this phase of the campaign, or of the weekend, where we realized, we're not going to win. All that matters is the most, not second most. So if you don't have the most, sell it all, dominate, do what you can do. And that's what I did. And it turns out my second last game, it was a lot of fun. It was awesome. But my last game was against Glenn. And somehow I had a chance of catching him. So I guess I must not have sold all of it. But I had a chance at catching him just based on what was happening in that particular game, or my memory's a little hazy. It was a year ago. I can't remember yesterday. But long story short, it was an awesome event. I had a ton of fun. Glenn dominated, and we all had a great time. This SkirmishCon is being run differently. This time, they're doing it with the skirmish rules in the very back of the book. It's pretty much the last page before the credits of the book. They're not called credits, but if it were a movie, that's what they would be called. I don't know what they're actually called. The last page with all the names of people who did things. The skirmish rules in Mordheim, we never played them when I was younger. I've never played them before this weekend. Before hearing about it this weekend, anyway. You can pay in the skirmish rules. You can pay for upgrades to your heroes. You can upgrade their characteristics. They all have prices in gold that you can pay for, like a strength increase or initiative or whatever else, and you can pay for skills. So the setup for this event is you create a 500 gold warband, just like normal, and then you also get 150 gold to spend on upgrades. And there are some limitations there. You can't do, I think you can't do more than one skill, or like more than 2 statistics increases. I think those are the 2 limitations. But otherwise, there's no limitations. And guys that get warbands that get extra gold in the beginning, like Marienburgers, for example, they get an extra 20% gold. So they start with 600 gold. They start with 600 gold, but they also get an extra 20% for their upgrades. So some interesting things you can do here. You can really tailor a warband for what you want to accomplish. And SkirmishCon is not our normal vibe. SkirmishCon is more competitive. People are trying to win at SkirmishCon. Whereas, when we have our campaign in Orlando and even in Tampa, nobody cares about winning. There might be a couple people that are a little more competitive than the others, but most everybody is interested in the narrative, and they're building their warband that way, and they're making choices based on their particular stories. They're not min-maxing, in any kind of stretch of the imagination. So SkirmishCon's a little bit of a different vibe, which is fun. I like it's just a short weekend. It's 2 days of a little more competitive Mordheim gaming, which is sort of a silly thing to say when you realize how imbalanced Mordheim is in general. It's not a perfect rule set, obviously, and it's not balanced by any metrics. So competitive is sort of an interesting term. That being said, The big kicker is that once you've got your warband and their upgrades, every game is basically going to be treated as a skirmish. So there is no post game. There's no experience. There's no trading posts. There's no lasting injuries. Your goal is, again, Weirdstone. You want to. I think the winner is whomever has the most Weirdstone at the end again. But there's no post game. There's no progression. I know I'm going to have fun, but I also know that it's going to feel like it's missing a big element for me. For that reason. But obviously, I'm still driving across the state, getting a hotel room, abandoning my family for a whole weekend, because I know I'm going to have a lot of fun, right? Like, this is a great game, however you play it, whether it's campaign or skirmish. I know I'm going to have a blast. That being said, the balancing issue I was talking about a little earlier, where you can be competitive and fun, or you can take things maybe a little too far in a game as imbalanced as Mordheim. It's not that hard to do. So, for example, my warband, most of us have shared our lists on the Discord already. My list, I'm running Smurfs, and I'm using the Night Goblin rules, and I'm using Night Goblin models. I love goblins; they're like one of my favorite fantasy elements in any part of the genre. And I've always loved the Night Goblins models. When I was a kid, I had an Orc Mob warband, and I had the Goblin Fanatics, and they were just like some of my favorite things. I never did anything productive. If you know anything about this game, Goblin Fanatics are mushroomed up crazy boys who swing around a ball and chain, and more often than not, they kill themselves. and the rules are so hard on these Night Goblin Fanatics. They're almost always taken out of action, and then they don't survive. And they're very, very expensive. The Fanatics themselves are a little more expensive than regular goblins because they come with Frenzy. But you also have to get them mushrooms, the Madcap mushrooms. If they don't have Madcap mushrooms, they won't participate in the battle. You have to get them the ball and chain, otherwise what are you doing with Fanatics? And the ball and chain is, I think, 50 gold. So, to start with, I think you're running like a 70 or 80 gold model that has a higher likelihood than not of going out of action. And because they're henchmen, they're going to go to action, and they're probably going to just be done, and you're going to delete them. So it's very, very expensive, and really high risk for low reward. I say low reward, but when those Fanatics start spinning up like a top and run into somebody and just smash them, it's amazing. The problem, though, is that usually immediately after smashing somebody, if they smash somebody, they go into a wall or go into terrain and go out of action. And then you're suffering all these extra rules about, more likely than not to not come back. It's got some, I can't remember the specific rule. I'm not running any of this tournament. I thought about it because in a skirmish concept, it would make more sense because you can run this expensive unit that has a high damage potential without the drawbacks. There's no post game. There's no lasting injuries, so you don't have to worry about it. That Fanatic, even if they crash into a wall or trip and strangle themselves with their ball and chain, they're still coming back next game. So it was a really good opportunity. On the other hand, my theme, as I mentioned, is Smurfs. I made Smurfs. So my leader is Smurfette. And yes, I hand sculpted titties on a Night Goblin model. I am not proud of it, but it had to be done. You have to have a female leader, in my opinion, if you can. that made the most sense to me, so I had to do it somehow. I did also give her the blonde hair, like straw sticking out of her hood. And I'm really happy with how they all turned out. But she's my leader. You got Papa Smurf, who's the only one that's in red. He's the shaman. He's the little crazy boy. I'll tell you a little bit more about him. So when I decided which rule set to use, at first I was going to use the Night Goblins non-web. I can't remember which one it's called. There's Night Goblins and there's Night Goblins Web Edition. The Night Goblins get goons, and they get 6 heroes off the bat. I thought, that's awesome. I want 6 heroes with short bows, with ballistic skill increases. That's what I want to do. Then I started reading the rules for the shaman in the web, where he gets fungus brew, so he basically gets can get a henchman group drunk off madcap mushroom juice. And I thought that's just the most incredible thing in the world, and so I had to do that immediately. Also, they have slings, and I thought, this is going to be a more competitive game weekend. Slings are way better than short bows. They're so silly. I wish there was more of a balance between the two, but it is what it is. Short bows, I think the range is only 16 inches, only fires once. Otherwise, I think they're the same. Slings, again, 18-inch range. And if somebody's within 9 inches, you can shoot twice at a -1. So they're super strong. If you don't move, they're super strong. And they're only 2 gold, whereas a short bow is, I believe, 5 gold. So I ended up changing my tact a little bit, and I went for the Night Goblins Web rule set. And for my shaman, I wanted him to have the spell Clubba. And Clubba, in the Goblin rules, is it's a difficulty 7, I think. So theoretically, very easy. Now, when you pass it, it creates this ectoplasmic club, and it gives the shaman +2 strength, a +1 attack. So a gangster weapon, +1 attack, +2 strength is awesome. And it doesn't end until you suffer a wound, which means he can cast it twice. So, rocking up with 2 of those clubs, those spells, he's getting +2 attacks, +2 strength to those attacks, and he's going to be a little blender because he's also going to be high on mushrooms. So he's going to have frenzy. So I gave him an attacks increase and initiative because I had like just enough gold for upgrades left to give somebody an initiative increase, which is I think the cheapest. So he's got 2 attacks with frenzy, so that's 4 attacks, and then it was going to be +1 for each clubba. So he was going to rock up with 6 attacks at strength 5, like a little angry blender of blue and red, and I was really excited about that. I have been working on this warband with this rule set and this roster for a few months now, and they're all done. They were all finished being painted. I was only working on the display base when I found out that the Night Goblins Web Edition has a slightly different spell set than the other Night Goblins rules. The other Night Goblins I believe they use the regular Orc and Goblin spells. The same, I think it's the same as the mob from the original Fnatic release. I think it was a Fnatic release. And that's the one that has Club on it. So imagine my surprise when I find out, oh my goodness, this is a different spell set. And it does not have Clubba. I modeled the clubs! So I am so sad because I've modeled these amazing ectoplasmic clubs. They're like green glowy clubs. They're clearly magical. Like, so excited about this, and it's not even a spell. So I said, okay, what do I got instead? There's a spell on the Night Goblin's Web that I think it's Idol of Gork, where it's I want to say it's difficulty 6 instead of 7, so it's a little easier to get off maybe, but 6 or 7 difficulty, about average difficulty, maybe easier. And what this does is it increases the shaman's weapon skill by 1 and strength by 1 and attack by 1. So, and it's the same where it lasts until the shaman suffers a wound, so that's great. Problem is, it doesn't create a weapon, so it can't cast it. It can't cast it more than once. So on the one hand, I'm losing an attack. I'm only getting 5 attacks when I rock up in combat, assuming I've got the spell active. And it only has the +1 strength instead of +2 strength, but it's still going to be pretty sick. He's still going to be an angry little blender, even with the reduced strength the attacks and one fewer attacks. And the +1 weapon skill is nothing to shake a stick at, because he's weapon skill 2 normally. Now, Mordheim weapon skill really doesn't matter that much. Like, people are so concerned about weapon skill, and I don't understand why, because unless your weapon skill is less than half the weapon skill of your opponent, you need a 4 to hit. It's a 4 to hit. Worst case scenario in Mordheim, it's a 5 to hit. Other than like some spells like the fly thing for Nurgle or whatever, that's a -1 to hit. Usually, you need a 4 to hit. So not that big of a deal. But since lots of heroes, we're playing a lot of Necromunda, that's going to happen. Since lots of heroes have weapon skill 3, increasing my weapon skill to 3 is going to be a little helpful in that regard. It'll make it a little harder for them to hit me. Instead of a 3, they'll need a 4 as well. So, maybe he survives a little more, if nothing else. So I think it's overall it's not crippling. However, the spell itself says that the shaman turns into a giant orc, and as a giant orc, he like a glowing green crazy orc, he fights. And if I had read this spell back when I created the warband, I would have loved it, because I would have gotten a separate orc model. The new orc models for Old World are so gangster. I painted one for a painting competition at Critical Hit Games back in October, and I loved it. And they're so sick looking, and they're perfect for Mordheim. And it would have been so nasty to have a giant orc smurf, all in the red armor, to switch the shaman out for whenever he cast the spell, make him glowy and all that kind of shit. That would have been just awesome. I would have been very, very happy with that. Having a different model to replace somebody for spell effects, I think is a really cool thing to do. That's why I did the clubs. I painted the clubs the way I painted them. It is what it is. I'm just going to pretend it's still Clubba, but it's got the other rules for it. What I did, though, is I actually had to rework the whole warband, because my shaman had no weapons before, because I was going to make them. So now I needed clubs. I didn't have the gold for 2 clubs. So I had to tweak some stuff around. I ended up I had a halberd on my leader, got rid of that, and I balanced a couple things out and managed to get 2 clubs on the shaman. So the shaman's he's got the +1 attack, so he's got 4 attacks from Frenzy, 5 for the extra weapon, and then 6 because of the spell. So he's back up to his full 6 attacks, +1 weapon skill, and the only drawback from a technical standpoint is the +1 strength instead of +2, which is fine. Plus, having a strength of 4 is just fine in Mordheim. Most things are toughness 3 anyway. And everybody else, my henchmen. So in Smurfdom, they're communists anyway. So I've got 5 heroes instead of 6. That's one of the changes between the rule sets that I talked about. And they all have slings and daggers, of course. And then I've got 5 generic Smurfs with daggers, and they're in one henchman group because I figured if I'm gonna have Smurfs, they really should probably just be one giant henchman group, as the communists would have it. I guess if they had goblins and Smurfs. So that whole henchman group is going to be drunk on mushroom juice, which I'm really looking forward to. The fungus brew rule for the shaman, and that's another thing I had to tweak my points on, is he had to start with a couple madcap mushrooms. Otherwise, what's the point of these skills? You have to have one to use it. So I've got 2 madcap mushrooms on him. I have modeled them. The warband is 100% WYSIWYG down to the equipment. He's got 2 madcap mushrooms tied to his belt loop, which I think is a lot of fun. I love being able to do that. So the fungus brew rules are really cool. It's a little risk reward. So before the game, you roll a d6 and apply the effects to one henchman group. I only have 1. It's all 5. On a 1, they're rowdy and they suffer animosity. On a 1 or a 2. So that's worst case scenario. Let's hope we don't roll a 1 on that particular dice roll. In saying that, now I have a feeling I'm gonna be doing that a lot. Animosity is one of the most fun aspects of running goblins and orcs, so that's totally fine. A 2, I don't remember the specifics, but I'm pretty sure it's like -1 initiative. It's bad, but it's not awful. Goblins, if they don't get the charge off, they're going to die. And usually when they get the charge off, they're probably going to die also. Because they're goblins. They're trash. They're mushrooms. They're little mushroom people. If you roll a 3, I don't remember what happens. If you roll a... What's important is I think it's a 5. If you roll a 5, they get hatred of the enemy, which is awesome. That means they're re-rolling their misses when they charge, which is sick. And if you roll a 6 on the fungus brew, they get frenzy. So I'm going to have 5 goblin henchmen who are trash, who will have 2 attacks each, which is awesome. If I roll some 6s there, that's going to be super fun for me. But even 5s. I played a game with Dan. He's got the goblins he put together for the campaign we're going to be doing in Orlando, the Halfling and Goblin campaign, Hunt for the Cookbook. So we've played some one-offs to kind of see how our warbands work, and one of them I got that out of the 5 on the fungus brew, and man, my henchmen were just rocking up, missing their first attack, hitting their second, and just taking them out. It was awesome. It was a lot of fun. So I've also got the hero goblins all have their names. Obviously, you've got Smurfette, Papa Smurf, and then I did Brainy, Doc, and I can't remember the name of the other one. Doesn't matter. The henchmen, I'm going to make up names for them on the spot because they're just generic Smurfs, and they're going to have a different name every time I make one up. And then you've got to have Gargamel. Gargamel, the bad guy, he's a troll, and I converted him from one of the ogres from the Hunted Warcry box. They're awesome looking, and I used a little bit of green stuff on him to make him have the balding the balding hairstyle that Gargamel has, and I gave him a nice big nose And I gave him the sort of tunic out of cheesecloth, and I think he looks great. I love him. And of course, his cat Azrael is there, the big tabby. That model I used from one of those like D&D resin models they sell at most game stores. They have a kind of a Cheshire cat looking thing from Alice in Wonderland. It's imposing. It's kind of bulky. It looks awesome. It's got one of those weird shaped bases, but it's sick. So I've got Azrael the Squig, Gargamel the Troll, and then a bunch of Smurfs. And we are going to see what's up. The advancements I did on Smurfette, so I gave her Eagle Eyes, so she's got an extra 6-inch range on her sling. And I gave her +1 leadership, as well as +1 ballistic skill. And if you know anything about goblins, their leadership is trash. So when you've got a warband who's got trash leadership and trash fighters, you're in kind of a bad spot. Normally, the play is, well, I have cheap, shitty units that I'm going to just throw at you, and you're going to be distracted by them as you're killing them. My good units are gonna focus you down and take out your important guys, and that works until you realize, oh, I have to take a route check because the whole point of having shitty chaff units is they're gonna die. But if you can't pass a route check, then you can't win the game. Your chaff dies, and right when your heroes or powerful units are about to do something, you have to flee. So that's why I gave her the extra leadership bump. Also, she's got to stay next to the troll because the stupidity test on the troll's not going to do anything without some help in that regard. His leadership is real low. I think it's like a 5, 4, or 5. It's bad. Maybe it's as high as a 6. I don't think it is. I think it's a 5. As you probably know, stupidity in Mordheim is a leadership check before you activate every time, and if you fail it, you got to roll another d6, and on a 1, 2, or a 3, I think you shamble forward 2 inches, which means you can also fall off the edge of things. You can't use it to charge, unfortunately, and if you get trained, just stop. And then on a 4+, you just stand there and do nothing. I may have those numbers reversed, but it is what it is. So yeah, you really gotta try to pass those leadership tests. Luckily, the troll has a 6-inch movement, so I just really need to make sure I pass 1 or 2, because once you charge and you get into that close combat range, he's gonna just sit there and absorb people, and it won't matter if he's stupid or not, because he will stay fighting. He will stay fighting in close combat. So that's the warband. That's the setup. I think it's fun. I haven't done anything that is even remotely considered powerful or metagaming in any kind of regard, obviously. Giving a ballistic skill 3 goblin hero a ballistic skill of 4, certainly not going to win any games at a high rate when they're so soft and shitty anyway. Seeing some of the other lists, there are some things that are real scary, and there are some things that I saw that I'm not looking forward to playing, because I see the writing on the wall, and I don't think it's going to be fun, because I don't think it's going to be... I think they're going to be insurmountable. That's the possessed warband that I saw. Now, already, if you know anything about Mordheim, the possessed warband is one of the strongest warbands from the original rulebook, if not the strongest. It's usually between undead and possessed. Those are 2 of the top. I think they might be the top 2 warbands. And mostly because the possessed are just so dangerous. And the mutants can be really good too. So, this list has 2 possessed Which, okay, you can have 2 possessed, and usually it means you don't have much else. I'm pretty sure this list only has 6 guys on it. I should mention, I did also get some hired swords. My plan was to have a warlock, who is, I think his name is Nicodemus in the Smurfs, the guy that is friends of the Smurf. And then I got Johann, the knight. Johann is the young squire who's also friends with the Smurfs. But when I found out, and I painted Johann, he's all set, he's ready to go. I was going to get a model for Nicodemus. Nicodemus, that's not the right name. I can't remember his name. Doesn't matter. When I had to rework my list, I had to get rid of Johann. Johann was the human scout, which is a very cheap hired sword, and not permitted to be used by goblins, but the event organizer and the campaign organizer said that's fine. The scout is not a strong unit, so he didn't have any problem with us using that if we were rocking goblins. But maybe it's serendipity that I can't use him because I don't have the gold anymore. I had to get rid of him, so I got this painted scout, and I painted him with the colors of Johann, and he looks cool, but he also looks kind of funny. And it's Smurfs; they're kind of cartoony, right? They're cartoon. So I don't know how much use I'm going to get out of this particular model otherwise, but we'll see. I'm saying all that because this Possessed Warband also has a Warlock and an Ogre Bodyguard. And what he did with his bonuses is what's really scary. He gave both of his Possessed 2 extra wounds. So these Possessed are rocking 4 wounds on Toughness 4 models. And then the skill he gave them is Black Blood. Now, Black Blood is one of the least fun skills in the game. Black Blood, to me, is it's the core rulebook version of Nurgle's Rot. Everybody knows Nurgle's Rot, if you play Mordheim, is the ultimate feels bad spell. Most campaigns have it banned. In the last Orlando campaign, we did not allow the Chaos players to get Nurgle's Rot. This is a really shitty spell to have. It can ruin an enemy warband well after the game is over. And, you can continue to get infected, you can have other guys get infected. It's gnarly, and it's just a feels bad type of thing, and nobody likes it, so it's pretty much universally banned. Black Blood to me is not nearly as bad, but it's about as close as you get, especially in the core rulebook. The core rulebook I feel like is pretty good as far as balance goes, on average anyway, between the warbands and their spells and their skills and stuff like that. But so what Black Blood does is whenever a model faces a wound, receives a wound in close combat, everyone in base to base with that model suffers a Strength 3 automatic hit. That's crazy. If you have a multi-wound model and you suffer a wound, automatically hitting your opponent with a Strength 3 hit is amazing. Now, think of how you would take down a Possessed, especially a Possessed with 4 wounds. The only way to take down a 4-wound model is to mob the hell out of it. Get as many dudes as you can right up on him and jack him up. Well, if you do that when he has Black Blood, you're going to get wrecked. If I have a whole squad of goblins up against a Possessed unit, and remember, we're going one at a time in close combat, I get one that causes a wound, that could take out every other goblin in close combat with it. Or, at a minimum, knock them down or stun them, which means then the Possessed can just go click, 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 gone, gone, gone. So, I am really not looking forward to facing this warband. This warband has only 6 units. He's got a Magister, 2 Possessed, Warlock, an ogre bodyguard, and a mutant. I think the mutant has an extra wound as well. So he's got something like 15 wounds between 6 models. And both of the magic users have the 12-inch, flight spell. So they're going to be running around grabbing all the Weirdstone while everybody's scrambling to do anything about the possessed. Now, obviously, with only 6 models, he's going to have to take a route check if he loses 1. But, if he loses 2. I don't know how you're going to be taking out the Magister and the Warlock, who are the only 2 killable units in the squad, when they've got 12-inch flight. You just keep them back, you run the 2 possessed up, watch them destroy everyone, or watch them get totally mobbed and destroy everyone with their black blood. Because with 4 wounds, if they lose 3 wounds, everybody that's in close combat is going to take a minimum of 3 strength 3 automatic hits. Who is going to survive that? Obviously, my troll has the only chance of surviving that stuff, but mainly because of the higher toughness, and trolls have a 4+, basically a 4+ invul insane. It's regeneration. They regenerate so fast that they heal as they're attacked. But that troll is not going to be sufficient to take out a possessed, let alone 2 possessed. Those possessed are nasty. So I don't know how I could possibly do anything in the face of a warband like that. Yes, I have slings. I have 4 slings. I'm not like sling spam over here. I got 4. 4 out of my 12 guys have slings. And they're strength 3. How am I going to take out 4 wounds on 2 toughness 4 models? I just don't know how to accomplish that. And also, you consider the rules of you can't shoot into close combat in this game. That makes it even tougher. If I face the possessed, I am going to have to daisy chain henchmen in front of my heroes. I'm going to have to stand in one group, and I'm going to have to daisy chain them in front so that they can intercept charges from the possessed, in the hopes of maybe they intercept the charge, and the possessed then is stuck standing in front of my 4 heroes, and maybe I could shoot twice and get lucky. But yeah, I don't. That's my strategy anyway. I don't know how successful that would be. Plus, not to mention, while I'm doing that, his Magister and Warlock are going to be flying around the board doing whatever they want. Granted, I have a Warlock, and instead of I was planning on getting like the kind of old school wizard with the long cloak or robe and staff, because that's kind of what the wizard from the TV show looked like. But I decided I'm just going to use my witch model. So as a reminder, for my undead, I used a witch hired sword, and she is the driver of the corpse carts, the old Warhammer corpse cart. I bought that off eBay just for that model, and she's got a long kind of stick in her hand, and I made that into a staff. Awesome model, perfect for a witch, like super haggard looking, and got this like dirty tattered robes all over her. She's a phenomenal model. So she really fits the aesthetic of the Smurfs anyway, more so than the wizard I had in mind would have, or Warlock, sorry. But yeah, the wind was taking a little out of my sails when I found the rules issue, and I was kind of focused on other things. I thought, you know what, for simplicity's sake, I'm going to use the witch. And ultimately, I'm glad I did anyway, because like I said, it matches the aesthetic much better than a sort of robed wizard would have. So yeah, I'm I'm really looking forward to this event. I'm obviously nervous about facing some opponents that are probably going to have a big feels bad element. Ultimately, I don't care if I lose. I am playing goblins. Like, goblins are not expected to win. You know, we are super squishy, super low leadership. Like, you know, they don't do well generally. So I'm not expecting anything, especially entering a competitive event. You know, like, there's a Marienburg warband that looks awesome, and it's going to have, you know, they've got all the extra gold and all the extra gold for their upgrades too. So the Marienburg warband in like a normal campaign setting, to me, they're a lot of fun, but they're not that great because, sure, you start off with an extra 100 gold. That is a lot, especially in a mercenary warband. You can do a lot with 100 gold. You can make some scary stuff. That goes away in a campaign real quick. I mean, especially in the face of other, like Reichlanders who have an extra ballistic skill on their marksman. That's way better to me. You have crossbowmen with ballistic skill 4 out of the gate. That's sick. But in this kind of skirmish setup, that's going to be strong. The extra gold is going to be real strong in the beginning. And every game is a new beginning, basically. So, but not broken or completely overpowered. I'm not afraid to face them. Like, you know, I think that'll still be a fun game. Might be a little harder, but a good one. And then, what else did I see on that? People were sharing on their lists. I'm sure Glenn is going to be having a lot of dogs. Whatever he's got, he's got to have a lot of dogs. And, you know, to me, that's fun. Dogs are one of those, you know, highly potent units in the game. And, in fact, their only drawback in a campaign setting is they don't get experience. But we're basically playing skirmishes, so who cares? There is no drawback there. But, you know, I think it's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to it. Also, SkirmishCon was loaded last year when I went, with other games. Their conference room is massive, and not only it wasn't just one conference room, it was one big conference room and then a whole bunch of little conference rooms. Mordheim was in one. I don't know if we're in 1 or 2 this year, but I think I saw that we have like 16 confirmed players, maybe. So it's a good turnout for sure. But it's cool to see all the other games too. There's so many different, infinite settings out there and types of games and rule sets and models. And they also had a lot of vendors with a lot of cool prizes, a lot of cool stuff. The prizes this year look really awesome. I'm not, just like last year, I'm not really paying attention to the prizes. I don't think there's going to be a shot of me getting in there. I get drawn in by the narrative, man. I want to be competitive, but it's too hard. I find things like goblins and the idea of making them Smurfs, and that's what I want to do. I don't give a shit about winning. Maybe one of these years I'll make a warband that's tailor-made for winning. I'll try to take advantage of, some of the strengths. Like, I think an undead warband is really strong, but in this skirmish setup, I don't think it's as strong as some of the other options could be out there. Like, for me, I think Reichlanders would be a very strong option. And I have a Reichlander group that I love to play in the normal campaign setting. But if I could give all my heroes additional ballistic skill too, and crossbows, and just have a nasty crossbow gun line, and maybe give some of them the nimble skill or something like that, like that would be a threat for any warband. That'd be a threat for the possessed. Walking up against 4 slingers is no fear for a 4-wound possessed. But walking up against, let's see, in my Reichlander warband, I'm pretty sure I started with 4 marksmen with crossbows, and then my leader had a crossbow. So that's 5 right there. The leader would be hitting on a 2. The marksmen are hitting on 3s. I would probably have given a couple ballistic skill increases to maybe the Youngbloods and given them crossbows. So I'd have anywhere from 5 to 7 crossbows. Crossbow strength 4. Yeah, it's move or shoot, but his range is 30 inches. So, I'm nervous with the slings. I have to wait till these possessed are pretty close to get my first shot. And if I do good on the daisy chaining of the interceptor henchman, I might be able to get 1 round of the double shot in. But, crossbow, strength 4, 30-inch range. I should be able to plink down those wounds at a distance, pretty easily. So, and, they're a strong warband all around. So if I were going to try to be super competitive, that might be who I would run with. Another good option is witch hunters. They're, the dogs. Obviously, dogs are phenomenally strong in a setting like this when you're trying to be competitive. They're super cheap. They have strength 4, so they can be a lot of fun. I could have even done more potent night goblins. For example, the squigs are the same price as goblin henchmen. And I kind of toyed with the idea of having smurfs, night goblins with daggers, that are rules as squigs, which would have been kind of thematic because of the random movement and smurfs being these little kind of chaotic dudes. Kind of want to fit the bill, but the squigs have a higher weapon skill and strength 4. Their only drawback is the random movement distance. So that would have been and they go crazy if they're not close enough to a goblin. So that would have been kind of fun to do too, but I decided against it. I think that would have been probably the stronger option, more competitive option. But I don't know. I just kind of preferred the idea of having a regular Smurfs, having them all sort of uniform and the same. Just like that's what Smurfs are, except the one with tits and the one dressed in red. For my group that's going to be running in the Halfling and Goblin campaign, I'm running Smurfs, but that's actually a campaign. I'm going to have some fanatics. I love fanatics. Like that's one of my favorite parts of goblins. So I have to have some. I know they're expensive. I know they're probably a waste, and they're probably going to hurt me more than they're going to help me. But I have to do it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have them as I don't know if it's Wild Smurf or Animal Smurf, but there's one Smurf that is a little more kind of deranged than the others in the cartoon. He wears like a leaf hat instead of their normal kind of robe things that they wear. Or actually, I think they're all shirtless. But he's shirtless wearing a leaf hat and like a leaf loincloth. And he's wild. He's like a wild animal. Jumping around and going crazy. So he's perfect as a fanatic. So I'm trying to find some models that'll work for that. That I can convert into ball and chain fanatics. But I'm looking forward to doing that. But for the time being, for SkirmishCon, we'll see how the Smurfs do. I put together a whole display base. I've never done that for any of my hobby. I've never made a display base. And my Smurfs bases are actually integrated into the display base. And they're magnetized too. I've got a little mushroom house. I've put up pictures on Instagram, so you can check them out there. I made a little mushroom house with air dry clay over a small jar, so it actually the roof of the mushroom house screws off, and I put in a little flickering tea light so that the window has like a flickering light. It's gonna be daylight, so nobody's gonna notice it, but I'll know it's there. There's a little skull pile. There's a little sign that's it's got a road on the base, and the sign has arrows to one to Mordheim, one to Deadwood, and one to Sylvania, which, it's almost kind of lore accurate. I looked at a map and I saw that those three things are kind of close to each other, so presumably the Smurf home could be somewhere in there that these arrows are correct. Maybe. So that's pretty much it. That's all I got. I will. I'm sure I'll do another recording on the drive back, because what the hell else am I going to do on a 3.5 hour drive? To sort of go over how it went. But yeah, this is super cool. I'm really excited. We got to bring SkirmishCon to Tampa. That's what I want to see happen, because I think we could definitely get some more players on this side for sure. That's the other thing. I'm the only Tampa representative this year. Last year there was 3 of us, and the year before that, Zane from Tampa hit Critical Hit Games. He won, and I think I want to say he won. He came close to winning last year, but Glenn won. Maybe he won. I don't know. I don't remember. I know I did a recording back then, so you can go listen to that if you're that interested. If any of you exist. I might just be talking to myself. Right now I am talking to myself. That's what this is. I really wish I could have gotten somebody to come with me. All right, well, I think that's about it for now. I've made myself feel lonely, so I am going to end the recording, and I'll catch you later. Thanks for listening.